I'd like to really talk about something that's very important today. Today is actually my 2 year anniversary of being sober. Now, for some that know that I actually got sober, a couple days or a week before the 27th, I'm actually counting the day that when I actually went to my DUI enrollment classes and I got started. So that's why I'm using the 27th as my anniversary. And the people who only know that when I got sober and when I didn't start drinking no more is my parents, my brother. But for me, I like to actually use the 27th of this month, July. My sobriety is basically July 27, 2024. And I like to say to a lot of people out there, if they take this as good advice or bad advice, everybody has their own well-being of how they really want to live their lives and how they really want to take it and how they really want to accept it. A lot of people went through a tough times. Same story, different situations, different luck. And for me, it's not the really worst of the worst. But for myself, I can actually tell everybody that I actually did snap out of it. I'm turning 38 years old. It took a while for me to really understand and the system that one has to do for himself. You are the only one who can pursue it. You're the only one who can make sure it gets there. You are the only one that can really say, this is my time and it needs to stop for the BS and it needs to start for the good things. So far within a year, I have gotten my car. I learned about having insurance. I learned about having registration. I have learned, being responsible, really makes a difference on a person. And it really becomes somebody that really wants to be more and more and more and more in their life. Now, for some people, it takes time. For some people, they will say, you know what, I don't really need that right now. But when the time does come, it's because you get yourself into trouble. And if you want to keep on growing and growing and growing with that trouble and not fixing things, just take a look outside. Look outside in the world. Look outside of your window. Look outside when you're in a car that, I don't know if not insured, not registration. Maybe you're borrowing someone else's car. Because I've been there. And I didn't really care about, if I did end up, getting caught by cops. All I cared about was just getting to point A to point B. And that was just, for me being, accepting of what I have now. That saying before when I accepting what I have, when I was in a position where I didn't have to worry about much. Now that I have, 1 year already in from my 18-month program, my DUI classes, I got 6 months left over. So June 18th, that's when I complete everything. And I have to have, the breathalyzer in my car for at least a year, which is, it's going to fly by in no time. But for some people, I just like to say to all of them, it's not hard to actually get out of a bad substance or a bad system. It just takes a lot of this. It takes a lot of this to say no. You can hang around with people. You can see it. You can actually just, to a point where you just say, why do I really need that in my life right now? Being stressed out is an always every single day thing for a person. Being stressed out is part of life. Being stressed out cannot be fixed with having a drink or smoking weed. I'm not talking bad about people that smoke weed. If a person needs it because it's supposedly got anxiety and it helps them, what are you going to do? Stay high for the rest of your life? And people say, it doesn't cause cancer. You know what? It's all about people's genes. and how the way they consume it and take it. I mean, there's people that live up to like 100 and still smoking, you know. Call it good genes, call it good, you know, good, yeah, just call it good genes, you know. But you really got to understand this and really tell yourself, do you really want to live for the rest of your life knowing that you have to get home and you have to understand and you really have to see what's in front of you and you really have to just sit down and then have one beer, have a joint, have another beer, and you say, okay, I'm good. Every day or every other day, having a 3-pack, having this, having that. You might not be an alcoholic. If you're a social drinker, you might not be an alcoholic. But just tell yourself, you know, do you really want to be actually drinking every other day, smoking every other day? I'm not saying you're throwing your money away because you work for what you need to survive. Okay? Paying your bills, getting food, putting gas in your car, paying all this. Now, you don't need alcohol to survive. You don't need a cigarette to help you survive. You don't need weed to help you survive. You don't need none of that in your life. What I'm trying to say is that wake up and understand that there's more better than that. There's more better for that than taking a piece of little bit of time and just being like, oh man, all right, I feel good now. You know, I had a long day. You know, freaking, you know, have a few beers. You know, I'm good. You know, but then you're gonna do that the next weekend, the next day. You know, for some people like me, who wasn't working, who was on drugs, depending on my parents, selling my own freaking items, my own stuff, so I can actually feel better in a position where I know I'm comfortable in. You know, if you're doing great for yourself right now and you're drinking and smoking and doing all that, just tell yourself. I'm not saying that you're gonna get busted, you know, while you're going to the store and you're kind of buzzing it, you know. I'm not saying that, but it can happen at any moment. Just think about it. There's a lot of people on the road right now. Too many people right now on the road. There's a lot of people on the freaking road right now. And there's a lot of people on the road right now. And everybody is always, you know, either on their phone, on drugs, intoxicated, or just don't know how to drive. You know. So you really got to tell yourself that, do you really want to wake up every day and tell yourself, man, can't wait to leave work, man, so I could just go get a beer. Or, you know what, I'll get a beer on the way. Or, you know what, next thing you know. Yeah, 30 minutes. Yeah. On my break right now, and I'm making this video, you know. And I'm actually just pretty happy right now that I'm actually working. I got my kids not fully with me, but I need to do some sacrifices so I can actually be, you know, in a position where I can actually get my own place, which I do have my own place. But it's just that what I'm paying for, you know, it's $600 is not a lot for some people. You know, yes, I use the restroom, but I cannot use the kitchen. I basically stay in my room all day. But I'm moving out pretty soon. I have to do that sacrifice, and I'm gonna have to be staying somewhere else and saving up money, which I have to do for myself. But as long as I'm actually, you know, in peace where I'm staying, and I'm living, I'm eating, I'm showering, it's all good. But back to the point at hand, what I was saying, you know, for all of us, that when you have a good thing going on, and you just have that little right to actually do to make you feel better, you know, smoking weed is not illegal, it's legal now. Smoking cigarettes is not illegal, it's legal. You know, drinking, it's not illegal. You know, it's not illegal, it's legal, but in a different way. Also with weed, you're driving, when you're out there, just having fun. I mean, I've been there, I've done that, but I know myself too much that I know what happens when I drink too much or when I get back into doing methamphetamine. And I told myself, you know what? If I cannot control it, I need to stop it. I need to stop it, and before it gets out of hand, which it did get out of hand, because I woke up in my own vomit in my room, even though I was in my own room, and I woke up with lines of methamphetamine on my phone, would throw up on the ground, and I told myself, man, I guess this is how rock stars live. But you know what? I'm not a rock star. I'm a low life on the floor, throwing up all over himself. My mother saw me. She was so embarrassed. She even told me that, you could have died. I wouldn't know. I would not know. But I seen the drugs next to you on the floor, next to you on your phone. And one thing about parents, some will actually let their kids do what they want to do, even though they know they're already a grown person. My parents are so much, tough love with me that they told me, if you want to go ahead and do it, go ahead and do it. We're not going to stop you. If you want to go ahead and do all that and do all this, go ahead. And I tell myself this all the time. Thank you. Thank you, God, for actually keeping me safe and keeping my mind straight, and still to this day. But tell yourself, like I said, do you really want to continue doing what you're doing, even though it's not really affecting you, even though it's not really killing you fast? It's not killing you in a fast way, but it's slowly eating you. You don't need that in your life. You don't need none of that. All you need is just pure love, hope, and just fighting for what's yours, and what's yours to actually begin with when you were born. You gotta bless yourself and tell yourself every day that, you know what, it's gonna be a great day, and you don't need no bad substance to keep you happy. Even though every day you get up and you have to go do what you gotta go do to survive. You survive every single day. Some people live paycheck to paycheck. Some people have a good career. Some people have so much money that they can drink and do all that, But like I said, money will get you everything. But being in a position where you're like, oh man, I shouldn't have drank too much last night, or man, I shouldn't have done that, or I shouldn't have done this. You have that guilt, and you have that that conscience telling you like, yeah, you did it once, you can do it again, so don't worry about it. But when you start to flip that, and you flip it on yourself, and you tell yourself over and over, you know what, I don't need to do it no more. Yeah, you might be saving a little bit of cash in your pocket. Yeah, it might be going to something else. But when you pass those 2 months, when you pass those 5 months, when you pass that year, and you're like, damn, I didn't know that being sober this long can actually be okay. It's not boring. It's not a waste of time. It's just, recuperating your body from what you've been taking and what you've been consuming. Now that I'm in 2 years, I'm still not out of the water. Like people say, when you have 5 years in, that's when you'll actually start living your life. And there is some times where I actually just get the craving, and it sucks, I think about something else, or I just do something else to get that out of my mind. But 2 years is nothing. Somebody told me, and a lot of people told me, when you have 5 years in, 5 years, that's when you start living your life. I thought passing 1 year was already like I'm good. Nope. I thought passing 2 years, I think I'm good. I'm doing okay. But like I said, when you pass those 5 years, that's when you really start living your life. And at any given moment, I can relapse. At any given moment, I can relapse. Just tell myself, you have something better now in your life. You got yourself, that's well-being and making everything better for yourself, for your kids, for your family, and who people around you. You know, people might peer pressure you into drinking. They might call you, you know, a wimp, a weenie, whatever. But that's just words. That's just words. That's just, you know, for them to get you on their wagon and their side of the road, so they can be like, all right, you know, see, I told you this person was weak, you know, just by a little bit of peer pressure. You know, you don't need none of that. You don't need people to tell you that, you know what, that you're not tough. You know, you don't need people to tell you that, hey, that you're not somebody. You know, you tell yourself that. You tell yourself all the time that, you know what, I am somebody. And just because you're doing something that's gonna make you feel better, you know, in a couple hours, in a couple minutes, that, you know what, like you're having the greatest time of your life. I'm doing that every day, every minute, every single split of the second. I'm doing it. That's what makes a person really come above it from everything. So think about it and tell yourself that.